Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Double Sleeved. I'm joined here with my co-host Ryan, and today we're actually going to be going over the BT15 Black reveals. Um, this time, Bandai's actually only revealed one Black leader. It's pretty common for them to only reveal, the one leader in the Black color itself, ever since that Black actually became a color specifically. But we're going to be looking at the older archetype that kind of got half revealed and released in BT14, which is Syn Shenron, Xeno. And we're going to be looking at a brand new character, Finn, that made his debut in BT15 and, yeah, got himself a brand new leader card with a couple of interesting effects that we'll be going over. But before I jump into that new shiny cardboard, Ryan, do you want to take us over the old Syn Shenron with the new cards that have been revealed?
Yeah, absolutely. This leader came out in Cross Spirits, similar to how we saw with the yellow Syn Shenron from set 10 to 13. That whole archetype was split over a couple of different sets, gaining you a couple of pieces as each set it come out to have a complete deck. So they've done the same thing again. Now we're seeing the second half of those reveals. So to make a complete deck, you want to be combining both pieces. Starting off with the leader, we've got Syn Shenron, which is a leader with the blocker skill, which is not something that we've seen before. Auto, when you activate a Shadow Dragon extra card from your hand, you and your opponent place the top card of your deck in the drop area. So we've got a bit of mill action in there. Auto, choose one black Shadow Dragon card in your hand, discard it. When this card attacks, draw one, then switch this card to active mode at the end of the turn, so giving you access to that blocker skill. We're going to see a lot of these cards in the deck have effects when they get discarded as well, so you're getting some additional effects there that we'll go over. Awaken, when your life is at 4 or less, or you have 7 or more black Shadow Dragon cards in your drop area, you may draw one card, switch up to one of your energy to active mode, and flip this card over. On your Awaken side, you're maintaining that blocker skill, so something that we're going to see on both sides. Auto, when you activate a Shadow Dragon extra card from your hand, your opponent places the top card of their deck in the drop area, so this time you don't have to mill, just your opponent. Auto, when this card attacks, draw one card. This card gets plus 5,000 power for the turn, and at the end of the turn, switch this card to active mode, so you're always going to be available to block. Activate main/battle once per turn, Spirit Boost 1. Choose up to one Shadow Dragon extra card in your hand and activate its activate main/battle skill without paying its energy cost. So we're going to be relying on unisons here, activating extra cards without paying the energy cost, just spirit boosting, and then forcing our opponent to mill. Starting off with some of the extra cards that we're going to see. Permanent, this card gains Shadow Dragon in all areas, and this we're referring to Ultimate Electric Slime. So they've got this permanent on there so that you're able to search them out with your effects and things like that. Activate main/battle, limit 1, choose up to one of your black battle cards. It gets plus 9,000 power and revenge for the turn. Something we've seen in Shadow Dragons in the past. They love having them with revenge, and when you combine that with blocker, it can be quite painful to deal with. Then we have Ultimate Flame Shot. A 2-cost extra card, same permanent as before. Activate main/battle, limit 1. If your leader is a black Shadow Dragon card and you place one card from your life in your drop area, place the top card of your opponent's deck in their drop area, and your leader doesn't take damage from your opponent's attacks until the end of a battle or end of the turn, whichever comes first. So we have seen a black card similar to this in the past, which was a Mars Saiyan. Pay 1 energy, you crit a life, and then you didn't take damage for the battle, getting you out of double strikes, triple strikes, and things like that. So something else to watch out for if you're playing against this deck. Next we have Ultimate Ice Ray, same permanent. Activate main/battle, limit 1. Your opponent places the top card of their deck in the drop area. Additionally, you may choose 2 black cards in your hand and discard them. If you do, your opponent can only attack with battle cards one more time for the turn. So limiting the amount of attacks that your opponent has is good, but having that additional effect of making your opponent mill a card and then they're forced to mill one for the leader for activating the extra card starts getting that mill and starts withering down your opponent's deck. Moving on to some of the battle cards that we have, we've got Nova Shenron, Power of Darkness, which is a 20k critical. Auto, if your leader is a Shadow Dragon card, when this card is played from your hand or discarded by a Shadow Dragon skill, you may look at the top card of your deck. If it's a black Shadow Dragon card, you may add it to hand, otherwise place it at the bottom of your deck. So a lot of these battle cards are going to have this effect, and when you're discarding them for things like your leader's auto or for their own effects that other battle cards have that involve discarding cards, it allows you to look at the top card, Shadow Dragon, add it to hand. You're mainly going to be running Shadow Dragon, so it's going to be unlikely that you miss, but it will happen sometimes. Activate main, limit 1, burst 1. Send this card from your hand to your warp. Look at up to 5 cards from the top of your deck. Add up to 1 black Shadow Dragon battle card with an energy cost of 5 or less among them to your hand, then shuffle your deck. So giving you a bit of an option to search as well. Something else that we've seen in the yellow Shadow Dragon deck, which was being able to search top 5, grab whatever you want. That was 8 or less. This is 5 or less, but it does seem like a lot of the battle cards are around that 5 or less mark. Then we have Nova Shenron Negative Energy Explosion. Again, 16k and critical, so they want to keep Nova critical for this set. Auto, same thing. If this one is played or discarded by a Shadow Dragon skill, you may look at the top card of the deck. If it's a black Shadow Dragon card, add it to hand. So both options there, whether you want to discard it or if you want to play it, being able to search and replace itself is good. Auto, if your leader is a black Shadow Dragon card, when this card is played, play up to 1 Toa Resonance of Shadow from your drop area with a marker on it. So this was a unison that we saw come out with the first lot of release for the deck, which was Toa Resonance of Shadow. It's a unison that works really well for the deck. Obviously, there are other black unisons that you can mess around with, but this one was specifically for this deck, and we'll see why. Auto, when your leader activates a blocker skill, place the top card of your deck in the drop area, then add a marker to this card. +1, activate main, draw 1 card, then choose 1 card in your hand and up to 3 Shadow Dragon extra cards in your drop area and place them at the bottom of your deck in any order. And then -7, activate main. -7, sorry, activate main. If your leader is a Shadow Dragon card, choose up to 7 black Shadow Dragon cards with different character names in your hand and or drop area and play them. So a couple of different effects there. Obviously, the first auto working really well with this leader. You're going to be activating blocker skill quite a bit, and then placing the top card of your deck in the drop area and adding a marker to this card. The activate main, because you're going to be going through and discarding quite a few cards, it gives you the option to put those cards back to the bottom of your deck, so you're not milling yourself out. You just want your opponent to be milled out, not you. That's not how you want to lose. And then we've got the -7, similar to the yellow Syn Shenron, which had a tap 6 effect, being able to play 7 different Shadow Dragons. This one's tied into the unison.
So it's interesting there as well when we look at the -7, right? Even the +1 as well, because it specifically says that you can put up to 3 Shadow Dragon extra cards. So it doesn't really give you the option to put the battle cards, because obviously the -7 is focused on playing the battle cards from your hand or the drop area. If we relate back to the original Syn Shenron that you mentioned earlier, the yellow one, that was focused on playing them from the drop. This is from your hand as well. So realistically, you might want to use them as combo pieces on the turn before, or you might want to, kind of be able to use the blocker skill on the leader and then kind of pitch it to go into the drop anyway. But if it gets milled, of course, something that you can't really control, you've still got the option to kind of bring them out later on. So it's not as painful to see those cards being milled as it was, with the other decks, that when you see a card that you don't really want in the drop area, you kind of feel for it.
Absolutely, and people know how devastating that
Feeling is.
tap 6 for the yellow Syn Shenron was, having 7 Shadow Dragons come out. So it does force them to keep this unison in check. Having the blocker on the leader obviously can make that a bit more difficult, because you can redirect that attack to your leader, but then you need to be mindful of your life as well. Moving on, we've got Ice Shenron, Power of Darkness. Auto, if your leader is a Shadow Dragon, when this is played again or discarded, you get to look at the top card of the deck. Black Shadow Dragon, you can add it to hand. If not, bottom of the deck. Auto, burst 1. If your leader is a Shadow Dragon card and it's your opponent's turn, when this card is used in a combo from your hand, choose up to 1 Shadow Dragon card in your battle area and switch it to active mode. Now, we've seen a card similar to this in the yellow Shadow Dragon deck. Interesting to note that this one doesn't specify black Shadow Dragon, so it can work in either or. You just need a combo from hand, and then you're able to restand one of those Shadow Dragons, which, yeah, not too sure if this one would replace the other in the yellow deck, but, you know, a bit of synergy there between both decks.
Or more at the end of the day. You know, you might want more than the maximum of 4. You might want to put 8. You might want to put 6, you know. Possibilities endless.
Absolutely. It gives you another option to play from the drop area. Raid Shenron, Power of Darkness. Now this one is a counter attack with blocker as well, so you get to negate the attack and then play this card in rest mode. So you're not going to be able to block on the initial turn unless you're restanding it with the things like the ice that we just went over. Permanent. If there are 7 or more Black Shadow Dragon cards in your drop area, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 2. So becoming a 1-cost negate that gets played in rest mode. Auto. If your leader is a Shadow Dragon card, when this card is played or discarded, you get to look at the top card of the deck. So you can pay 1, play this card, look at the top card. If it's a Shadow Dragon, add it to hand, replacing itself. Always good. Next we have Ice Shenron, Negative Energy Explosion. This one's barrier blocker, so even more difficult to get rid of. When it gets played or discarded, top card of the deck, Shadow Dragon, add it to hand. We know what this does now. Auto, at the end of your turn, switch this card to active mode. So giving you the option to swing with it, pass turn, restand. It's going to be difficult for your opponent to get around barrier. We see a couple more cards dealing with it now, but you know, it's always tricky to play around. Always good. Next we have Raid Shenron, Negative Energy Explosion. Seeing a bit of a theme with the names here. Another blocker, played or discarded, search the top card. Auto burst 1 if your leader is a Shadow Dragon card and it's your opponent's turn. When this card is used in a combo from your hand, switch up to one of your leader cards to active mode. So now we're getting the option to restand our leader and activate blocker again. Something to be mindful of. I guess you don't want to be blocking too many attacks, but if you want to keep your unison alive, you want to keep your battle cards alive, you can start taking those attacks into your leader, start taking that life and keeping everything on the board.
And on top of that as well, kind of what you're mentioning, Ryan, trying to keep your unison alive, right? It's a 10 cost, 10,000 power unison, right? So, I mean, it's going to be the target of a lot of these swings, right? Because you don't want to get them to 7. It's kind of like when you're playing against the old Syn Shenron. It's like, once we get to 6 energy, it's not really fun. It's going to be a bad time.
Well, it's fun for me.
Yeah, well, of course. But, you know, you really want to kind of swing at the unison. And the fact that the leader has the blocker ability, it's kind of like, no, I'm going to transition away from that because I need this to have 7 markers. And then obviously once per turn, on the auto, when it activates a blocker skill on your leader, you get +1 anyway. So, I mean, 2 markers pretty much in one of your turn and one of your opponent's turns, you know, it's a +2 virtually. And you're never going to neg on it for any other reason except for going for that 7 anyway. So, very interesting to see how that's going to play out.
Absolutely. And worth noting that the unison, the auto is not once per turn. So every time you activate blocker on your leader, you're going to be able to add a marker there, which is cool. The only time that you're really going to be negging is when you're doing the spirit boost on leader. There's a couple of other cards in cross spirits that have spirit boost as well. So being able to activate those extra cards for free, you know, minusing 1 on the unison's not too bad if you're able to restand and block a couple of attacks and add markers there. Moving on, we've got one of the bigger boss monsters in this deck, Omega Shenron, Darkness Absorbed. It's a unique. If your leader is a Shadow Dragon, played or discarded, search the top card. Activate main for 1 black energy. If your leader is a Shadow Dragon card and you choose 1 black Shadow Dragon card with an energy cost of 5 or less in your battle area, place it in the drop area. You get to play this card from your hand. If you do, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and send it to the owner's warp. A lot of similarities here from the 8-cost Omega Shenron that we saw in yellow. That one was able to play over a battle card, but this one, you know, that one could be any. This one is 5 or less, so limiting it a bit more. But being able to warp something on play, always good. The other one was quite strong, in which you could copy the effects from the drop area of any 4 or less Shadow Dragon. Looks like they dropped that for this one, probably realizing how strong that effect actually was. Then we've got the first SR for this set in the Shadow Dragon deck, Omega Shenron Ultimate Darkness, unique, triple strike. When it gets played or discarded, add the top card of your deck to your hand if it's a black Shadow Dragon. Activate main for 2 black energy. If your leader is a Shadow Dragon card and you have 3 or more energy and you send 7 black Shadow Dragon cards from your drop area to your warp, play this card from your hand. Again, a lot of similarities from the yellow TP that we had, except that one was 1 energy, same effect, 7 Shadow Dragons from drop area to your warp. Didn't have any energy requirements. You drew a card on play, things like that. So they've toned these cards down a little bit, probably realizing that, those effects were really strong for that deck. You had a control matchup and things like that. And then for 1 energy, you had this big aggressive triple striker. Now they're limiting you to how early you can play it. They're forcing you to spend 2 energy instead of 1. But again, 2 energy for a 30k triple strike is never a bad thing. And then we've got the last extra card for the deck, Ultimate minus energy Powerball. Counterattack, if your leader is mono black, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, 15,000 power or less, ignoring barrier, and send it to the owner's warp. Permanent, this card gains Shadow Dragon in all areas. Permanent, if you have a black Unison in play, you can activate this card's counter for free without paying its energy cost. Activate main/battle, limit 1. Choose up to one of your black leader cards or black battle cards, and it gets plus 15,000 power until the end of the battle or end of the turn, whichever comes first. So this one is quite generic, can be used with any mono black leader, even more effects if you've got a Unison in play, being able to activate it for free. But yeah, choosing one of your opponent's battle cards, 15,000 power or less, ignoring barrier, and just sending it to the warp, that's a great effect. I think that we'll see this card for quite a while in all mono black on all black decks. Yeah, we haven't seen any kind of real multicolor leaders with involving black, but a bit of future proofing there perhaps if multicolored leaders do come back. But yeah, getting around barrier just puts this card over the top a bit more. Yeah, great effect. What do you think about it, Umit?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of, obviously, kind of a segue going into, Finn as well. I mean, as long as any black deck that you run, obviously has to be mono black, but like you said, future proofing it. But any black deck that runs a black Unison these days, and there's a multitude of black Unisons, as simple as playing in with 1 marker on it. It doesn't need any markers to be mandatory. It's just as long as you have a black Unison card in play, use it for free. Obviously, this leader does get the ability to play this with Spirit Boost 1 as well, so you don't have to use the energy because it gets to activate main/battle. Obviously without the counterattack, but I mean, it becomes a free card in this deck one way or another, right? Like, so you get both effects for free virtually, either if you're spirit boosting or if the fact that you've got a Unison in play altogether. So really, really interesting to see that black is kind of getting that counterplay the same way that the other colors obviously have, and a very strong one at that, in all honesty.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just about to touch on that. I agree. Like, we didn't see any black free counterplays or things like that in set 10 when a lot of these came out. So they probably realized that now black was probably lacking in that department, giving black quite a strong one here. Has Shadow Dragon in all areas, means it's searchable. Yeah, overall, a great card for the deck and black decks in general. And then lastly, we've got the SPR. So Syn Shenron, doing a bit of work. Yeah, great looking card. I love the way the purple and the black work together. Sensational. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Shadow Dragons. I love them all. I love Nova Shenron the most. He was always such a cool character in GT. I know that a lot of people have mixed feelings, but yeah, I love the Shadow Dragons. So great to see this deck finally finished. I hope we see more. But yeah, one character I'm not really familiar with is Finn. So do you want to take us through that deck?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll jump into Finn, which is, as I mentioned previously, first time we're ever seeing it in the card game itself, and it gets a leader as well. So obviously Bandai are absolutely loving this. Not really many other cards. Black was kind of the color that we didn't see many reveals for. It's kind of like a multicolor kind of style where there's like selected cards for it. I'm wondering if maybe we start seeing more coming through the future sets, because this is the first time we're seeing Finn, very similar to the black Syn Shenron. But I'll go over the leader, and I think it's going to be one of the most popular decks in the next set, personally. When this card attacks, draw 1, stock standard. Secondary auto, when a card is placed under this card, draw 1 card, add cards from your life to your hand until you have 6 life left, and flip this card over. Very, very easy to awaken on this leader. We'll go over the other cards that allow us to absorb. It's very similar to like a Majin Buu style of play. It also has an activate main once per turn. If all of your energy is black, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and place it under this card. You can activate this on turn 1. If you go second, and they play like a one drop, right? And as long as that first card in your energy is black, activate the main. The awaken is when your life is at 4 or less, you may draw 2 cards and flip this card over. Obviously, you can allow to do that through the auto. Or actually, looking at that, it doesn't actually say you can get the awaken. So now that I reread it,
so you would just be flipping it over, drawing a card, taking the life. But if you want to draw those 2 cards instead of 1, you got to go down to 4. So they are allowing you to awaken early, but they're giving you less for it.
Yeah, but I mean, we've seen it in previous leaders. It's never a bad thing to have a 15k leader with 6 life, right? It's so hard to swing into. You get to kind of control the momentum from there. I mean, some leaders that come out, it's just a simple swing at the 15k just to draw. So it's still not the end of the world, but I mean, having that 15k body on the field that really can't be touched at 6 until your opponent awakens or they start playing bigger monsters, going to be really interesting to see. I think 80% of the time you might want to use the ability to kind of even put the battle card underneath the leader, right? And then awaken itself. Sure, 1 card extra is probably not worth it to go down to 4 life, but it's obviously got the option there. We could see some kind of wacky plays that, would rather keep you unawakened until you get to the other side. But we will look at the awakened side now. Finn, Apocalyptic Absorption. Permanent. This card gets 5k power for each card placed under it. Kind of crazy in itself. At the end of your turn, play all the battle cards under this card in your opponent's battle area with their skills negated for the game. Then place all the cards under this card in their owner's drop area. So if it's cards that obviously can't be played in your opponent's drop area, or it's your own cards, they obviously will go straight to the drop. But yeah, I mean, the permanent is 5k for each card placed under it. So obviously that's on your own turn, and then you play it on your opponent's turn with its skills completely negated. The activate main once per turn. If all of your energy is black, draw 1 card, then choose up to one of your opponent's battle card and place it under this card. Choose up to 1 keyword skill on a card under this card, and it gains that skill for the turn. Crazy. Absolutely crazy, right? We were just talking about the Shenrons that you mentioned. They have critical on them. Half of them didn't have barrier on it as well, so you can just easily scoop that up, get critical, plus 5k, and draw 1 card. It will go obviously back onto your turn, after the turn's done. But I mean, it's just going to be a 15k body at the end of the day.
Yeah, and we've seen something similar with the green boot that just came out as well, and how frustrating that was to have to monitor where your cards were and the effects that they had, because your opponent's leader could steal it if it was 4 or less and gain dual attack and critical and all of those kind of things. So it can be frustrating to play around. Also worth noting, the permanent can be on either opponent's turn as well. Absolutely. So if you can get cards under your leader on your opponent's turn, you're sitting at 20k, sitting pretty.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's another thing, right? A 20k swing when you're awakened at 6 life and your opponent's still, sitting on its front side, is nothing to laugh at. We'll go over a couple of the cards that they've obviously revealed. Like I said, there's not really much out here, but I mean, we're kind of going to see the style of play that they want to incorporate. We've got a 1-drop Dabura. The permanent, if your opponent has a skillless battle card or unison card in play, this card gains barrier and blocker. Auto, when this card is played, draw 1 card. So that's virtually a 1-drop blocker barrier, because when you take away your opponent's battle cards and put them back onto their side at the end of the turn, it's going to be skillless. So really, really interesting to see how much that gets played. Again, we've spoken about it, the 1-cost blockers on the field. Not really too crash hot, but, it could, with the game possibly slowing down, it could definitely come into the deck. 1-cost extra card, Absorption of Doom. Counterattack. If your leader card is a black Finn card, so very, very specified, negate the attack. Additionally, if your opponent has a skillless battle card or unison card in play, they can only attack 2 more times for the turn. In general, we're not talking about just battle cards or 1 leader, 1 unison swing, just in general, right? Permanent, if your opponent has 2 or more battle cards in play, you can activate this card's counter skill from your hand without paying its energy cost by choosing 1 other black card in your hand and discarding it. We have seen this effect previously, but obviously it's a very slight variation. They have to have 2 or more battle cards in play, and then you've just got to pitch another card from your hand. Honestly, playing this for 1 is still not the end of the world either. Like, I actually highly rate it. I don't think it's going to be too much of a nuisance to play it for free unless you're tapped out.
Yeah, true. But if you're tapped out at that point and they've still got 2 more battle card attacks,
Yeah.
you're probably staring down the barrel at that point.
Absolutely. Exactly right. We're going to go through some more 1-drops. Toa Calling the Hordes. Auto, when this card is played, look at the top 5 cards. Add up to 1 black Android or Demon Realm race cards with an energy cost of 3 or less, or 1 black Unison card with a specified cost of 2 among them to your hand, then shuffle your deck. Activate main Spirit Boost 1 mandatory black. If your leader card is a black Finn card, place up to 1 card under your leader card in its owner's drop area. So preventing that card going back to your opponent. You might want to play this after you swung because you get the 5k bonus on there. But the Unison that it's speaking about, it's Skill Hunter Majin Buu. It is a 2 mandatory black cost. 15k Unison permanent. Your opponent's skillless cards can't attack this card. So again, another way to kind of stop it from being targeted, because everything that you kind of gobble up and then put back onto the other side are all going to be skillless, right? The auto once per turn, if it's your turn, when a skillless battle card or Unison card is placed in your opponent's battle area or Unison area, draw 1. Now, this is only on your own turn. We know that at the end of the turn, obviously they get put into their field. I believe this still would trigger at the end of your turn because at the end of your turn, everything gets replaced onto their side of the field. So you would still get the auto.
Just on that quickly, I believe there's some clarifications coming out on whether the battle card and the Unison have to be skillless. So my current understanding at the moment is that yes, both of them do need to be skillless for you to get that draw 1.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember seeing some posts and things about it, but it's meant to be coming out in the Q&A about that effect, and they will clarify it.
Yeah, interesting. All right. It's got a +1 activate main as well. This card gets 5k power for the turn. Very, very stock standard. And the -1 activate main is kind of where it gets a bit interesting. If your leader card is a black Finn card, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and place it under your leader card. So again, multiple ways to kind of get those cards underneath your leader to kind of take control of the board. Even if it's got blocker on there and you kind of want to get around it, it's got a lot of removal, but not just removal, right? It ends up being beneficial for yourself to get 5k for every single card underneath the leader itself. We'll track back now to some of the other battle cards that we've got in this set for Finn. So we've got a 2-cost Skill Hunter Toa, no mandatory black. Counterattack Spirit Boost 1, play this card. The permanent, if it's your opponent's turn and they have a skillless battle card or Unison card in play, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 1. So again, you'll probably play it on your secondary turn. It'll kind of almost be live with all the effects that obviously the leader has. The auto, if your leader card is a black Finn card, when this card is played, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost of 4 or less and place it under your leader card. So many ways to kind of work with this. And the good thing about this as well, right? This card, you counterattack, right? You play the card, play it for 1. If they've got a skillless card in there, and then you get to choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, 4 or less, place it under your leader. Leader gets 5k for the turn. It'll be 5k on your turn as well, only because the cards don't go back to your opponent's side until the end of your specific turn. So going into your turn with a possibility of having 20k on your leader, even 25. This isn't a unique. This isn't a limit 1. I mean, for 1 energy to play a 15k body to put another card, it's kind of like almost negating another card, right? We remember the Supreme Kai that we also saw when you have 3 cards in your warp, you get to warp another one. This is kind of like, I know it's 4 or less, but there is a lot of battle cards out there that are 4 or less these days. So, to kind of keep chucking it under your leader and give it like a bean until the end of your own turn, crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
We've got some Finn cards now. They're not just obviously just for the leader's art. we've got Finn Unison Absorber. Now, this is kind of a crazy one. It literally has the details in its own name, just to give you a taste of what we're talking about here. The auto is a mandatory black. If your opponent has a skillless battle card or unison card in play, at the end of a battle in which this card was used in a combo from your hand, play this card from your drop area in rest mode. It's a 5k combo for free. Not that hard to get off. Obviously, you have to pay one mandatory black. But the second auto, if your leader card is a black Finn card, when this card is played, you may choose one of your opponent's unison cards and place it under this card. If you do, this card can't be used in a combo this turn, and at the end of the turn, play the unison card under this card in your opponent's unison area with 2 markers on it and its skills negated for the game.
I can already imagine people calling for a ban on this card. Like, we've seen how much people dislike unison interaction. This card's not going to last a week.
It's a common. I just want to put it out there that it's a common. I know it's specifically designed for Finn, right? And they had to do it. We saw the Mechikabura kind of deck where like all these cards kind of interact only if you've got that, but you've got a unison, like the Toei unison, for example. You're trying to get that to 7? Nah. Slice it under, back
Start
to 2.
again.
Yeah, like not even that, but like if they have like the counterplay, you know, they have ways to kind of like deal with the stuff that you're going to play on your board. Just, you don't even have a unison anymore. It has no markers. Like it comes back skillless. And obviously when it says skills negated for the game, if a unison loses a marker, it regains its skills. I just want to be very clear about that. So you would have to swing into it, or spirit boost as well. Would be ways to kind of get your unison back. But even then, you can't really, or you can tick it up from like other abilities if you have those cards in your deck, but there's no real way to kind of force yourself to really, like, I guess, remove the marker
restart
on it, except
kind of
for,
thing, yeah.
except for spirit boost itself. So one of a kind. I think that's one of the big reasons why I think Finn is going to be crazy, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it has in store.
Absolutely, yeah.
3-cost Demon God Dabura Skill Hunter. Look at this king.
Yeah.
Auto limit 1. When this card attacks, draw 1 card. They had to put the limit 1 on there. You just don't want it to keep swinging and drawing. Activate main 1 mandatory black. If your opponent has a skillless battle card or unison card in play, play this card from your hand. Crazy. One cost, 20k. When it swings, draw a card. I mean, I love it. You know, we were talking yesterday about a lot of stuff being skillless and Bandai kind of going onto that way where like there's a lot of skillless cards kind of coming into play. This is amazing. I feel like it's great for this deck. I think it'll see play in black decks later down the track. But yeah, crazy good.
For sure, yeah. And, you know, even if this was a 15k when this card attacks, draw 1, it would be good. But they made it 20k as well. Like.
Absolutely. Last 2 cards we're going to get into. We're going to look at the rare, which is a 8-cost, 2 mandatory black, Finn the All-Absorbing. Auto Spirit Boost 1. If your leader card is a black Finn card, when this card is played, choose all your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and place them under your leader card. Activate main for 3. If you have 4 or more energy and you place a card under your leader card in its owner's drop area, play this card from your hand. The easiest way to cheat this thing out for 3 energy, and you're almost going to want to do it every single time. Activate main once per turn. Place 1 card under your leader card in its owner's drop area. Switch this card to active mode. 25k beater. Board wipe. Ignoring barrier. It does not matter how much power they have. And as long as you have 4 or more energy and you place this card under your leader card in its owner's drop area. Specifically designed for Finn. Kind of reminds me of that Mechikabura 8-cost that we saw for the SR. Yeah, where it obviously plays from the warp, but this is kind of on its own level. I think it's insane.
Absolutely. Again, like you take out the ignoring barrier part, and this card's still good. Like they're just adding these additional effects onto these cards that are already good, and just making them something else, something special. They really went hard for Finn.
And I'm interested to see, because obviously we've got like 7 or 8 cards specifically designed for Finn, right? If there is future support, wow, is all I'm going to say. And lastly, the SR. Now, this has obviously got Finn on it. It's not even required to have Finn as your leader. It's a deflect, 2-cost, mandatory 2 black. If your leader card is black, when this card is played from your hand, your opponent chooses one of their battle cards. Then you choose the rest of their battle cards and send them to their owner's warp. This is still on another level great in its own. It's got deflect. It's always going to hit the board, right? Obviously, they can't choose barrier, and obviously barrier isn't affected. But for a 2-cost possible board wipe, I mean, you'd play this over Kami every day. We don't see much Kami played now anyway, but it's still a 15k. They get to choose one battle card that they want to keep, and the rest of them goes down there. But we're seeing more and more decks that run wide boards, love to swing at you for 15, 20ks. I think it's absolutely insane. I think it's definitely going to be a 2 or 3 of in this specific deck. I think it's going to be at least a 2 of in most black decks, if not at least in the sideboard. But yeah, this card is giving me good vibes.
Yeah, definitely. There was always a lot of spot removal in black. Now giving them the option to start doing some board wipes. Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much it for the black reveals from Bandai. Ryan, do you have any closing thoughts on anything that we've kind of gone over today?
No, not so much. I mean, Finn obviously looks really exciting. It does a lot of things. It's going to be a nuisance. Syn Shenron finally got the completed deck. Yeah, black looks really strong this set. Like, black looks strong for the last few sets that we've seen, but they're just adding on top now.
Yeah, I think I agree with you now. Like, this is probably why they only did like one black deck at this point in time. Obviously, it builds on the previous black deck that we had, but I'm very, very curious to see, one, how this deck goes, and two, if they continue to reveal support for Finn, specifically because, they don't make sets overnight and they don't actually wait, closer to set release date to kind of have these cards ready to go, right? They're planning this in the background for at least 6 months, I would say, to get the card art done and all the effects. So, going to be interesting to see if they've provided future support already in the back of their mind.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, with that, guys, hope you enjoyed the black reveals. We've obviously got a couple of other color reveals, depending on when you're watching this, that are up on our YouTube channel as well. We will be going over blue and multicolor in future episodes, so please, if you haven't... and green, yeah. Oh, I didn't even think of that. But yeah, if you haven't already, consider pressing that subscribe button on YouTube. It does help us. It obviously lets you know when we go and put up another video. Check out our Facebook page, Double Sleeved. You'll be able to see when we post up. Give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever it is, and give us your comments. Say what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. But yeah, hope to see you in the next one, guys, and take care.
See you later.